Gentle disclaimer to all of our listeners. All medical information mentioned in this podcast is purely informational. It is not individualized medical advice. Please follow up with your physician or medical practitioner for individualized care specific to your needs. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Know and Do Better podcast. My name is Dr. Leilani Crawford, and I am your host today. I am very fortunate that we have our special guest, Blossom Leilani Crawford, here to chat with us about the power of one small change. Blossom is the owner and director of Bridge Pilates in Brooklyn, New York, and her teaching style is very much inspired by the Pilates elders that she had the opportunity to work under. These Pilates elders include Kathy Grant and Romana Kryzanowska. She is able to pull from different Pilates lineages and then also infuse her own experience and unique take on the Pilates method. Blossom is also on faculty at Mark Morris Dance Company and teaches a Pilates mat class that is open to the community. Thank you, Blossom, so much for being here.
So good to be here.
So aside from my work as a physical therapist and business owner, I tried to fit in my own Pilates practice with Blossom during some one-on-one sessions. And during a session probably a few months ago now, the idea of one small change, one cue, one correction came up in conversation, and just how that can have a domino effect in someone's physical practice. I know I see this myself with my physical therapy patients, and then in my own physical exercise practice, my own Pilates practice, but I know from experience that sometimes I will get caught up with giving too many corrections or focusing on too many things at once.
Guilty, same.
Right. Which can work, but doesn't have the same profound effect that just making that one small change and adjustment can have. So Blossom, how do you see this in your own work with your Pilates clients?
You know, when I first was a young teacher, I was so eager to get it all right and do it all and make sure everybody got all the information. And I remember once a coworker said to me, joking, like, anything else you want to tell that person, Blossom? Because I think I said like 20 things. I'm exaggerating. And it took me a while, but I've realized sort of along the way how sometimes less is so much more, but it's really finding sometimes what that one cue is for someone. Right? Because, you know, what I used to love about teaching a big group mat class is you could say your one cue and you get 8 people who would do exactly what you thought. And then you get those 2 people and you go, that is doing what I want, what I said, but that's actually not what I wanted at all. Mm-hmm. So I think it is finding that one small cue or change, but also finding out what that is for each person is what I struggle with these days as a teacher.
Yeah. So tailoring the cues is really important because some cues work for some people and some don't work. So do you think in Joseph Pilates' intention when he was creating the Pilates method that he created the principles for Pilates and the principles for whole body health for that reason? Because sometimes getting like overwhelmed with the specifics of the exercise and like the technique kind of backfires.
When you say the principles, do you mean what we know of as the 6 principles of Pilates?
Correct.
So here's an interesting story. So a little history moment. So yes, there are what we know as the 6 principles of Pilates, but they were actually not created by Mr. Pilates.
Ooh, tell me.
No. So there was a woman named Gail Eisen, I want to say, and Philip, I feel like his name started with an E as well. I should know such a thing, but there was these 2 people and they wrote a book. Apparently they were Mr. Pilates clients, if I have the story correct. And they were writing a book that had Pilates mat work exercises in it. And I think the publisher was like, okay, this is great, but we need like another hook or another something. And they came up with what we know of as the 6 principles of Pilates.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess my answer to that question is no.
Of course not, because he didn't create them himself.
He didn't create them. That was not his. So yeah, funny addendum to that. I know. So ask the question again, but maybe without the 6 principle part. So ask the question again. Let me hear it again.
Do you think that the Pilates principles, the 6 principles, help to facilitate teachers cueing so that they can get to that one cue that will have that profound effect?
I mean, I think they can and they should, because, as you watch a person, maybe those are the things you should be thinking about. Like, I sometimes feel like we get a little caught up in what the choreography or the movement should be, as opposed to how is this person doing it? And what do I feel like they're missing in this? Like, are they missing the precision? Are they missing the flow? Are they missing the control? Like, I think that's a great way to filter how you're looking at movement. I think it would be a great tool. I wish I could say that everybody was using that. I wish more people did, but I think using those 6 principles would be a great way to try to look at bodies and to find that one cue that you think the person needs.
Absolutely. So since Pilates is more of a mind-body movement method, these qualitative cues and these qualitative principles should help to streamline and facilitate the connection to that mindfulness in movement.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And sort of like, what is next? And what am I feeling? How does this feel? I feel like one of the things that I really learned as a student of Kathy Grant's was she gave me a framework to always have this constant dialogue in my head of like, when you're doing this breathing, are you breathing equally on both sides? So that's what I feel like she gave me, was this constant dialogue with myself while I was working out. So I was sort of self-analyzing and going along the way while I was working out, which was really a great skill to have while I was being a student, which essentially became my framework for when I became a Pilates teacher.
Which I feel like is what the challenge is, right? So that you were focusing on the one thing, but then still able to address the other things as you were maintaining that one theme or correction that you gave.
Yeah. And sometimes when I would do chair work, especially, just start going, pump the pedal. Like, she'd just scream her the one, because sometimes I'd be so concentrating on doing it perfectly. She'd just go, pump the pedal, like just from across the room, to be like, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're pumping the pedal. Let's not forget, right? Like, don't get caught up in all that other stuff. Just pump the pedal. It's a good reminder.
So why would you say that one small change is so powerful?
I think it sort of centers the mind on giving you one task, right? It's almost like getting that to-do list and you're getting 10 things to do and you're like, oh, it's just too many. As opposed to if you looked at that to-do list and said, okay, what's the most important thing that I need to do right now? What needs to do what? And then it's sort of like you can really actually chip at it that way. So I think I feel like for me, it's about the word I use is funneling, like funnel that information into like, what is the one thing that's most important right now?
Yeah. I mean, this can be applied directly to life in many facets, right? So
yeah, very much so.
I say this to my patients when they're asking me for exercise advice and how to have an exercise routine. And the thing I tell them is, you just have to, or even a meditation practice. For meditation, I say, just start with 3 minutes every day. Yeah. Sometimes people are like, I can't sit for, if you can't sit for 10, sit for 2. If you can't sit for 2, sit for 1.
So that reminds me a little bit. I sometimes, when people want to get some cardio in and they're into, I honestly suggest, might find this hilarious. I suggest the 7-minute workout. Do you know about the 7-minute workout?
I don't. Tell me.
It's a HIIT workout.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
On YouTube. And you don't even have to actually jump. You can just start, just a little bit goes a long way. And it's 7 minutes. Like, everyone's got 7 minutes where you can and you need a chair, maybe a mat. And if you do it, your heart rate goes up. And, and then when you start feeling better, sometimes you do it twice and then it turns into 14 minutes. But yeah, again, just a little bit. It's sort of like that thing, like, don't worry about running the marathon, just walk around the block and then maybe you'll walk further.
Exactly. Yeah. So for the gym advice, patients and clients for you, there are many times like, I just don't have time to spend an hour at the gym. I'm like, well, who says you have to spend an hour at the gym?
Exactly. That's one of those myths.
Yep. So any final remarks for our short little conversation, Blossom, about the power of one small change?
The next question I think that would come up for a person is like, well, what should that one small change be? And I think it's personal for each person, depends on the goal, but make it achievable and also really celebrate it when you're like, oh, great, I did that thing. And you know what, next thing you know, you maybe will get 2 things done. But I think you just one step at a time, it's almost like recovery. It's like, what's the one step at a time? And I feel like in this day and age, it's been a hard, this pandemic, I don't even want to say post-pandemic because it's still happening. This pandemic life has not been easy. And I feel like some people have been really hard on themselves. Just be kind and just, take your time and be kind to yourself would be my next thing to say. Like, okay, so you skipped it one day, you've always got the next day, but just do one walk around the block, one set of jumping jacks for 1 minute, set a timer.
Exactly.
Easy, achievable little nuggets.
Yes, I love that advice. That's wonderful. Well, Blossom, thank you so much for joining me
for having me, Melanie.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to listen. Please spread the word about some of these tips and ideas for changing your own practice and enhancing, if you are a teacher, enhancing your client's experience via one small change. And join me next time for another informational conversation. Take care.